Great.
Hi everyone, my name is Craig with Kaiut Yoga Boulder, and I'm here to introduce one of our newer teachers, Megan Zubaedi. Hi, Megan.
Hey, Craig. Hey, everyone.
So we've been introducing these interview sessions, and um, our last one was with Michelle, our other teacher. So if you haven't caught that yet, go ahead and check that out. And today, Megan's has such a cool story. So I wanted to start with just asking you, Megan, how did you find yourself in the Kaiut world?
Great. Thank you. Um, I found Kaiut Yoga about 7 years ago. I was 38 at the time. And I've had a long history with difficulty in my body. I was born without hip sockets, bilateral congenital hip dislocation. And I ended up having to have a lot of reconstructive surgery between the ages of 2 and 15 years old in order to create hip sockets. And that journey, as you can imagine, put me on a healing path from a very young age. I got into healing arts and body work, body centered somatic therapies, and at the age of 38, I had done a lot of healing in my life. There was a lot of resolution of trauma and things like that in my body. But I was actually moving into chronic pain. My low back, my hips, my neck, headaches, all sorts of things that were a result of the scar tissue, the trauma, the injuries, things that I had worked with massage therapy and movement and psychotherapy and you name it. I had done a lot of things, but there was still this deeper level of stuckness that was in my system that was really starting to create long-term effects. And at the time, I really didn't think that there was an option. I felt like my option was to age with grace as much as I could and be grateful for the body I had. And a friend of mine told me about Francisco Kaiut. He was in town. That's where you and I met, Craig, was at the church those years ago.
Hmm.
And I uh, I met Francisco. I told him about my story, my body. He was the first yoga teacher that ever said, "Cool, let's do this," instead of like, "Whoa, that's kind of intense." So even just the way that I was welcomed into the community opened a door for me, because I understood that this was a therapeutic approach that could help. And I took class every day that week with him, and I could feel the effect just right away. So that started my Kaiut Yoga journey. It was confronting, it was challenging. Um, and I also felt like it was the key to the lock, to the locked upness in my body. It was touching things that I had not been able to touch through any other modality. And I recognized right away that it was going to change my life if I chose to take it up. So I did. I started my process at that time, started taking classes regularly, got involved with the teacher training program, and started the very slow and deliberate and consistent unwinding of patterns of restriction, scar tissue, injury, lack of mobility, lack of strength in my body. And it has changed my life. It has truly
Yeah.
changed my life. It has, I think that for those people who've lived with a lot of pain, you know that it's exhausting. It takes a lot out of us to be in pain. Even in minimal ways, it takes a lot out of us to be in pain. And so I'd say, like a couple of years into my Kaiut Yoga journey, I really started to feel that my system was more free, like I just had more energy. And I not only was I let in less pain and moving with more freedom, but my life started to get a little easier as well. And it was at that time I really decided to become a teacher. I've been a healing arts practitioner since I was in my early 20s. I've had private practice for decades. I've found all sorts of healing modalities that have been profound on the journey of healing for myself and other people. And I felt that Kaiut Yoga does for our students what I would hope to do as a practitioner. It delivers a very impactful nervous system response, and it actually addresses patterns of restriction, immobility, weakness, lack of tone, just across the whole spectrum of what keeps us unwell in our bodies. Kaiut Yoga really addresses that entire spectrum. And I just recognized that Kaiut Yoga could do more for people than I could do in even totally awesome hour and a half sessions, every couple weeks or once a month or something. And so I really transitioned into becoming a Kaiut Yoga teacher.
So why do you think that is? What's the distinction in this method for you?
I recognize that Kaiut Yoga, the system and the method of Kaiut Yoga, is there's a basic intelligence in it, and I think of it kind of like an algorithm that inspires our own natural healing potential within us. So you scratch your arm, there's a current of healing in your body that responds and heals that scratch. It does that for everything. And stressors, life, trauma, difficulty, our culture, modern lifestyle, it's kind of like clogs up the natural mechanisms of healing that are just normal and available, and can slow things down, can make things less accessible, more difficult to access. Stress is a major one of these, our high toned nervous system responses just to normal life. And Kaiut Yoga works like I mean, I don't know, it's kind of like magic, really. You just do it and it works. It's like just for me and for you, Craig, for so many of our students, we have that experience. If you just do it, somehow nature inside of you begins to wake up on its own. You don't have to like get smart about it. You don't have to learn why. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to do the psychotherapy around it. Somehow it just works. And it realigns our body mind with that natural current of healing inside of us. It unleashes that natural current. And then that natural current has the ability to handle whatever is in the way inside of you. So it's like it gets something going that then just continues on its own. And it's it's using what's already inherent within us, circulation, breath, movement, mobility. It uses what's available already within us to address the places where our system has come out of balance with nature. So that's, as a healing arts practitioner for so long, that's one of the things that I recognized really significantly, is that this is different in the way that it just aligns us with nature, and then something takes over and a healing process happens.
Yeah, and it almost seems like the the initial or the early stages of the progression is all about sort of getting out of our own way, right? And allowing the method to sort of happen on its own through nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So beautifully said, beautifully said. Um, so how how would you say, and in your case, and certainly your husband's case, um, what, how does things turn out? Like what, then what?
Right. Right. Then what? Yeah. Yeah. I'm somebody that loves to watch water move, even in puddles and streams. And it's like when you take out the debris and then the water just starts flowing better. And there's a way that when that water starts flowing, and inside of us, that includes the circulation of our own blood and lymphatic fluids and the cellular fluids that move throughout our systems, oxygen. Um, it just it inspires wellness. And when that wellness gets inspired, I really do believe that as human beings, we have a basic orientation towards wellness. And so then we start to be able to listen because it's more evident. It's like when the waterways start running more clearly, you can see the health in all of the land around that. It's like it affects everything. And so there's an aliveness that starts to happen. And I think that we actually start to naturally begin to orient towards better activities, better choices, better ways of spending our time. And it's not something that I'm like trying to do from the top down. It's like the body becomes more free, there's more health, more vitality available. And then I would rather just go for a walk instead of sit on my couch and watch TV because life is happening inside of me. And I really think that this helps us age very differently. Myself and my husband, who had major surgery, um, he's up snowboarding right now, actually. And it has a lot to do with Kaiut Yoga. I mean, he's pulling off full days on the mountain. And it's because his vitality is available to him. And that changes the way we age for the rest of our lives. So,
Yeah, I mean, the core, one of the core principles of this method is just that. Like how do you want to age? What's your longevity plan? How do you want to feel when you're 80 years old, 90 years old, so on and so forth?
exactly. And
Yeah.
I had an image of myself as a 75-year-old in a wheelchair, before I started Kaiut Yoga. And it was a specific moment. It was actually after a training that Francisco was here. And it was just all of a sudden, I didn't have that image of myself as an elderly person anymore. All of a sudden, I had this image that I was going to be able to walk until I couldn't anymore. And that changes your whole life, especially somebody who's lived with a lot of pain and immobility, to imagine that I can bend down and tie my shoes until I'm 80 or 90 or until the end of my life. That changes my sense of self, even in this moment. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Beautiful. Well, you all can catch Megan at Kaiut Yoga Boulder. Check out the schedule. Currently, she teaches Tuesday nights at 6 and Friday evenings at 4:30. So check her out. And if you need any more information from us, have any questions, please reach out. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. And Megan, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.